Christmas morning arrived as expected, quiet, cold, and filled with anticipation. The house was decorated just like it always had been. The tree, a towering presence in the corner of the living room, sparkled with lights and ornaments. The kitchen smelled of bacon and coffee, the aroma filling every corner. Everything was perfect. Or, at least, it should have been. I had planned this holiday with precision. Every detail was set in motion months ago. I had taken care of the flight bookings, the resort, the luxury ski passes, everything was taken care of. I had spared no expense. This year, my family would finally have the perfect Christmas getaway. I had worked hard for it, and I had wanted nothing more than to give my family the kind of holiday we all deserved. The resort in Aspen was set, the plane tickets were in hand, and I was prepared to spend $17,000 on what I thought would be a holiday to remember. My daughter, Nicole, her husband, Zachary, and even his parents, Howard and Kinsley, would all join me. I imagined the smiles, the laughter, the closeness. We would ski together, eat gourmet meals, relax by the fire. It was supposed to be a Christmas of bonding, love, and shared memories. However, when Christmas morning arrived, everything changed. I woke up early, as I always did, to get the coffee brewing and the bacon sizzling. The scent of Christmas breakfast filled the house, and I could already hear the rustling of wrapping paper and laughter from the living room. But as I entered the kitchen, something felt off. There was no sound from the living room, no voices, no excitement. I paused. I looked around, expecting to see Nicole and Zachary sitting on the couch, excitedly unwrapping gifts. But the room was empty. Confused, I called out, "Nicole? Zachary? Howard? Kinsley?" Silence. I walked through the house, checking each room, calling their names. But the place was eerily quiet. The only thing that broke the silence was the low hum of the refrigerator and the occasional click of the clock on the wall. I checked their bedrooms. Nicole's door was ajar, and I could see that her bed was perfectly made. Zachary's things were gone too. His shaving kit, his clothes. Everything was gone. I rushed back to the kitchen, my heart pounding in my chest. On the table was a note, folded neatly, placed exactly where my coffee mug usually sat. My name was written in Nicole's handwriting. "Dad," the note began, "we decided to go to Colorado without you. The family needs this time together. Just us. Don't worry about the money. We know you can afford it. Thanks for everything. Love, Nicole." The paper slipped from my fingers as I stared at the note in disbelief. They were gone. They had left without me on Christmas morning. After I had spent months planning this perfect getaway for us, they had decided to leave me behind. The sadness hit first, then the anger. How could they? How could they take everything I had given them and walk away without a second thought? I picked up the phone with trembling hands and called Nicole's number. Straight to voicemail. I called Zachary. No answer. I called Howard and Kinsley. No one picked up. It was as if they had all vanished. The reality set in. This wasn't some impulsive decision. This was planned. I sank into my recliner, staring at the Christmas tree, its lights twinkling mockingly in the silence of the room. The presents I had carefully chosen, wrapped with love, sat under the tree gifts for people who no longer cared to be with me. I looked around at the empty house. The house I had filled with warmth and laughter, now deserted. Everything had changed in the span of a few hours. The family I had always cherished, the family I had worked so hard to provide for, had just ripped itself apart in the name of family time. The irony was not lost on me. They had left me for a vacation that I had paid for, and now, I was alone on Christmas morning. I had planned this holiday for us, but they had planned their escape. I walked to the kitchen table, picked up the note again, and reread it. "We decided to go to Colorado without you. The family needs this time together." I felt a wave of nausea rise in my stomach. They hadn't even bothered to tell me directly. No phone call, no explanation, just a note. I stood there for a moment, letting the weight of the betrayal sink in. The family I had thought I was providing for, the people I thought I was doing all this for, had turned their backs on me. I had given them everything I had, and they had repaid me by abandoning me without a second thought. It wasn't just the money, it was the thoughtless way they had discarded me. It was the fact that they thought they could treat me like a walking ATM, using me for what they needed and leaving when it suited them. I picked up my phone again and dialed Nicole's number, hoping for some explanation, some reason. Maybe she didn't mean it. Maybe she was just caught up in the excitement of the moment. "Nicole," I said when she picked up. "It's Dad. I found your note. What's going on? Why did you leave?" She sighed, and her voice sounded strained. Dad, I don't think you understand. We needed to be alone, just the two of us. We needed this time to reconnect as a family. We can't always be with you. We need to live our own lives. I could hear the distance in her words, the finality. She wasn't apologizing. She wasn't explaining. She was justifying. She was telling me that I no longer fit into her life, that I was no longer part of their plans. I didn't know what to say. My throat tightened, and I felt the anger rising again. I had spent $17,000 on this vacation, and they had left me behind without so much as a second thought. Fine, I said, my voice cold. You've made your choice. Just remember, this is on you. I hung up the phone, my hands shaking. I stood there for a moment, unsure of what to do next. But one thing was clear. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. This was betrayal. A betrayal so deep that I could never look at them the same way again. I walked over to the kitchen counter where the resort brochures lay. I had carefully chosen every detail. I had planned every moment of this vacation for them. And now, they had thrown it all away. I couldn't let them get away with it. I grabbed my phone again, this time dialing the resort. I wasn't going to sit idly by and let them take everything from me. Not anymore. The house was eerily silent. The Christmas tree that had been decorated with so much care now stood as a mockery of the holiday spirit. Its lights blinked steadily, but without the laughter, the chatter, and the warmth of family around it, the house felt cold, even in the midst of the holiday season. I stood in the center of it all, unsure of what to do next. The Christmas breakfast that I had carefully prepared sat untouched on the kitchen counter. Bacon sizzled in the pan, but the smell was no longer comforting. It felt like a cruel reminder of what should have been. I couldn't even bring myself to eat. I stood there, staring at the half-cooked breakfast, my mind racing. I could still feel the sting of Nicole's words, as she had told me they were leaving for Colorado. The sheer casualness of it all, it wasn't just about the trip. It was about the fact that I had been so easily dismissed. In the years that I had given everything to support her, to provide her with the best of everything, I never once imagined she would treat me like this. And now, on Christmas morning, when everything was supposed to be perfect, she had gone without so much as a word. No explanation. No apology. It didn't make sense. My mind kept replaying the events of the past few months, the planning, the excitement in her eyes when I mentioned the trip, the way she hugged me and told me how amazing I was for doing this for her and her family. It had felt real. It had felt genuine. But now, I saw it for what it really was. A plan. They had been planning to leave me out all along, taking advantage of my generosity while keeping me at arm's length, pretending to want me there, but really making it clear that I was nothing more than a source of funds. The betrayal was deeper than I had ever expected. I couldn't sit there, wallowing in my anger and confusion. I needed to take control of the situation. I couldn't change what had happened, but I could make sure they understood the consequences of their actions. They needed to know that there were repercussions for their disrespect. I walked to the kitchen, my steps deliberate, my thoughts clear. My phone buzzed again, this time with a message from my neighbor, Jeff. "Merry Christmas, Larry. Hope you're having a wonderful morning with your family." The message felt like a slap to the face. It was a reminder of everything I had lost, everything they had taken from me. I put the phone down, feeling a sudden surge of determination. I wasn't going to let them get away with this. They thought they could take advantage of me, that I would just accept their betrayal without question. But they were wrong. I was done being the quiet, accommodating father who kept giving without asking for anything in return. This time, I would take back control. I had a plan. It wasn't one that would bring my family back. It wasn't one that would make everything better. But it would give me something I hadn't felt in a long time. Control. I walked to my office, the familiar surroundings comforting in a way that nothing else had been that morning. My desk, neatly organized with papers, receipts, and family vacation brochures. I opened the drawer and pulled out the file, labeled Aspen Trip 2024. It was thick with all the details, the bookings, the resort reservations, the spa appointments, the ski lessons. Everything was lined up perfectly, all set for a family Christmas. But now, it felt like a cruel joke. My hand hovered over the phone. I knew what I needed to do. I dialed the resort's number, my heart pounding in my chest as the phone rang. "Good morning, Little Nell Resort. How may I assist you?" The receptionist answered, her voice cheerful and polite, a stark contrast to the coldness I felt inside. "This is Larry Hughes," I said, my voice steady but firm. I need to make some changes to my reservation. My family had planned to stay with you, but there's been a change in our situation. Of course, Mr. Hughes, what changes would you like to make? The receptionist's tone was still warm, but I could hear the professional detachment in her voice. I need to cancel the entire reservation, I said, my fingers trembling slightly as I spoke. All of it. The rooms, the spa appointments, the private dinners, everything. I don't want any of it anymore. There was a brief pause, and I could sense her surprise. Mr. Hughes, I understand that this may be difficult. However, the cancellation fees will be substantial due to the holiday season, and there are several premium services booked. I don't care about the fees. Just cancel everything, I said, my voice cold now, final. And make sure my credit card is removed from all the bookings. I won't be covering any additional costs for them. Understood, sir. I will proceed with the cancellations. Is there anything else I can assist you with? The receptionist's voice had softened now, sensing the seriousness of the situation. Number, that will be all, I replied, hanging up the phone with a sense of finality. The decisions had been made, and there was no turning back. I sat back in my chair, the weight of the moment settling in. I had just canceled everything. The trip, the plans, the dreams of a perfect Christmas. It felt like a small victory, but a hollow one. I wasn't celebrating. I was taking control, and for now, that was enough. The house remained silent, the echoes of the phone call lingering in the air. It felt like everything had changed. Christmas morning had always been a time of warmth, love, and togetherness. But now, it was a reminder of betrayal. I wasn't sure what to do with that feeling, what to do with the emptiness that had settled into my chest. I walked through the house, my footsteps heavy on the hardwood floors. The Christmas tree, the presents under it, the wrapping paper. Everything felt like a scene from a movie I didn't want to be a part of. I reached the living room and stood by the window, staring out at the snow-covered yard. I had spent years making sure my family had everything they needed, but in the end, it wasn't enough. They had taken my love, my generosity, and turned it into something else. And now, I was left to pick up the pieces of a holiday that had been shattered by their betrayal. But as I stood there, watching the snow fall softly outside, I realized something. I was still standing. I was still here. I still had the power to make things right for myself. The world had changed around me, but I hadn't lost everything. There was still time for me to figure out what I wanted. And no matter what happened, I wouldn't let them take my peace away from me. They had made their choice, and now I would make mine. Days passed, but the emptiness in the house never left. The Christmas tree still stood, its lights blinking, its ornaments catching the soft glow of the winter sun. The presents I had so carefully wrapped remained untouched, lying in a pile beneath the tree. It was as if time itself had slowed down, in the absence of the usual holiday cheer. I couldn't escape the feeling of betrayal. My family, the ones I had given everything to, had treated me as nothing more than a bank account with legs. They had planned to abandon me, to leave me out of the one holiday that had always been about family. And what did I do? I did what I had always done. I took action. But this time, it wasn't about keeping the peace. It wasn't about letting them have their way, because I could afford to make things right. This time, it was different. I was done being the quiet, accommodating father. I was done absorbing their emotional neglect. They had crossed a line, and now it was my turn to draw a line of my own. The phone calls had started. 48 hours had passed since the cancellation of their trip, and I had heard nothing from them. At first, I had waited for a text or a call, some sign of regret, some attempt to explain their actions. But the silence was deafening. Then, Nicole had called me. I had ignored the first call, then the second, and by the third, I had decided I wasn't going to take it anymore. I picked up the phone and pressed the green button. The phone rang once, then twice, before I heard Nicole's voice on the other end, her tone strained, desperate. "Dad, please," she said, her voice breaking. "Can we talk?" I leaned back in my chair, staring out the window. I had made up my mind. I wasn't going to make this easy for her. The kindness, the patience I had shown for so many years, it was over. "Talk about what, Nicole?" I replied, my voice even. "About how you took my money and left me on Christmas morning? How you planned this entire thing behind my back and thought I wouldn't notice?" There was a long pause. I could hear her breathing heavily through the phone. "Dad, I'm sorry," she said, her voice cracking. "We didn't mean to hurt you. We didn't know how to tell you. We thought you'd understand. We thought it was best to go without you. We wanted some time to ourselves. We just needed a break. A break. A break from me. That was the real reason, wasn't it?" All these years of sacrifices, all the money, the support, and this is how they repaid me by excluding me, by pretending I was just an afterthought. I took a deep breath, trying to control the wave of anger that was rising in me. I gave you everything, Nicole, I said, my voice shaking slightly. Everything. And this is how you repay me? By leaving me behind? You don't get to just walk away from this and expect things to go back to normal. There are consequences for what you've done. I could hear the panic in her voice now. Dad, please. We never meant for it to be like this. Please, just don't be angry. We'll fix it. We'll come home, and we'll make things right. I shook my head even though she couldn't see it. No, Nicole. You don't get to fix this by coming home and pretending everything's fine. This isn't just about a trip. It's about how you've treated me. It's about how you've taken me for granted. You think money fixes everything, don't you? She didn't answer right away. Instead, I heard her sniffling, trying to hold back tears. We were wrong, Dad. We're sorry. I don't know what we were thinking. I should have never left you like that. I was selfish. I wanted to feel sympathy for her, to forgive her as I had so many times before, but this was different. This wasn't just about a mistake. This was about a pattern. They had taken me for granted, manipulated my generosity, and now they were trying to play the victim. They thought I would just forgive them because they were family, but I was done. Nicole, I'm done, I said, my voice firm. You and Zachary made your choice, and now I'm making mine. You thought you could take my money and leave me behind, but I'm not going to stand by and let you do this. I've spent years making excuses for you. Not anymore. Dad, please, she begged. I know we messed up, but I'm asking for one more chance. One more chance to make things right. I didn't respond immediately. I looked down at the pile of receipts, the financial documents, the records of everything I had given them over the years. The tuition payments, the wedding costs, the loans I had co-signed for them. It was all there, in black and white. They had taken it all, and now they wanted more. I felt a cold wave of realization wash over me. I had been blind to the fact that they were using me, taking advantage of my generosity without ever considering the toll it took on me. I've made my decision, I said. I've canceled everything. The resort, the bookings, the ski lessons, all of it. You don't get to have it all, Nicole. Not anymore. There was a moment of silence on the other end of the line. Then, Nicole's voice broke through, filled with disbelief. You canceled everything? But we were counting on that. You can't just do this. It's not fair. Fair? I repeated, my voice cold. What's not fair, Nicole, is the way you've treated me for years. The way you've used me to fund your life without ever showing any appreciation. What's not fair is that I've spent decades sacrificing for you, and now I'm left alone, abandoned on Christmas Day. I'm done being your ATM, your fallback, your safety net. I've been a father, not a credit card. I'm sorry, Dad, she whispered, her voice trembling. We messed up. Please, don't do this. You've already done it, I said. Now you'll live with the consequences. After hanging up the phone, I sat in silence for a long time, staring at the Christmas tree in the corner of the living room. The lights twinkled softly, but it didn't bring the usual joy. I couldn't shake the feeling of emptiness that had settled deep within me. The holiday that was supposed to be about family had turned into a reminder of everything I had lost. A family that had once been close, once held together by love and shared memories, was now fractured. And it wasn't just about the trip. It wasn't just about Christmas. It was the betrayal that stung more than anything else. I had worked so hard to provide for them. All the money, all the time I had spent making sure they were comfortable, happy, and secure. It felt like it meant nothing to them. They had taken it all for granted, including my love and my devotion. My generosity had been mistaken for weakness, my willingness to give mistaken for an open invitation to take. But this time, I wasn't going to let it slide. This time, they would feel the consequences. I stood up and walked toward my office. The house felt larger now, emptier. The sounds of family, the laughter, the hustle and bustle that usually filled the rooms were gone. All that remained was the cold silence, punctuated by the occasional hum of the refrigerator and the distant ticking of the grandfather clock. It was all so empty. I reached my desk and pulled open the drawer where I kept important documents, things I had always handled with care, knowing how much they meant to the family. As I flipped through the files, I found the one labeled Aspen Trip 2024. The receipts were neatly stacked, the confirmations and itineraries organized just as I had left them. I ran my finger over the pages, each one a reminder of the gift I had given them. The trip was meant to be a family experience, a once-in-a-lifetime gift that would bring us closer together. Instead, it had become a symbol of their betrayal. I slammed the drawer shut and grabbed my phone. I wasn't going to sit around and wallow in self-pity. I was going to do something. I was going to make them understand that actions have consequences. The phone rang once, then twice, before the receptionist at the Little Nell Resort answered. She was polite, too polite, her tone chipper as though nothing had changed. "Good afternoon, Little Nell Resort. How may I assist you?" I cleared my throat. "This is Larry Hughes. I need to make some immediate changes to the reservation for my family. There's been a change in our plans and I need to cancel everything." "Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, Mr. Hughes. Let me pull up your reservation." "Oh yes, I see your family arrived last night. How may I assist you with the changes?" I could feel the anger rising in my chest as I spoke. "Cancel everything. The rooms, the ski lessons, the spa bookings, everything. I don't want any of it. The trip is off. And I want my credit card removed from all their bookings immediately." She hesitated, a hint of disbelief in her voice. "Mr. Hughes, I understand. But this is a premium reservation, and you're canceling during peak season. There will be significant cancellation fees." "I don't care about the fees. I said cancel everything," I replied firmly. "Make sure to remove my credit card from all bookings. I won't be paying for anything they've booked." "I'll take care of it right away, Mr. Hughes. Anything else I can assist you with?" I hung up the phone without responding. I felt a cold satisfaction wash over me, but it wasn't enough. This wasn't just about canceling a trip. It was about setting a precedent, about showing them that there were consequences for their actions. They couldn't just take my money and walk away. They had to face the consequences of what they had done. I walked over to my filing cabinet and pulled out the folder labeled Financial Support to Family. Inside were years of receipts payments for their tuition, their wedding, their homes. I had helped them all, over and over, without question. I had provided them with everything they needed, everything they wanted. But now, I saw it all for what it truly was. A one-sided relationship built on dependency, not love. I flipped through the papers one by one. The university payments for Nicole, $180,000. The wedding expenses, $65,000. The down payment for her apartment, $85,000. Car loans, credit card payments, emergency funds, $90,000 over the last few years. Over $500,000 in support. And what did I get in return? A Christmas morning of silence, a note, and a family that had planned their escape behind my back. I closed the folder and placed it on the desk. My heart was heavy, but I knew I had done the right thing. I wasn't going to let them continue using me. Not anymore. The phone rang again, and I immediately recognized Nicole's number. She had been calling non-stop since I canceled everything, but I had been ignoring her. This time, I decided to pick up. I needed to hear what she had to say. "Dad," she said, her voice shaky, "please don't do this. Please don't cancel the trip. We didn't mean for it to happen this way. It was just a mistake." I could feel the manipulation in her words, the attempt to make me feel guilty. But I wasn't going to fall for it. "You've made your choice, Nicole," I said, my voice cold. "You decided to go without me. You've been planning this behind my back, and now you want me to forgive you because you're sorry? Well, it's too late for that. I've already taken care of it." "Dad, please," she said, desperation creeping into her voice. "We didn't mean it. We thought you would understand. We needed this time as a family. You were always saying we should do something for ourselves." "You took advantage of me, Nicole," I replied. "You've been taking advantage of my generosity for years. You and Zachary. You think I don't see it? You think I don't know how you've been using me to get what you want? Well, I'm done." Nicole was silent for a moment. Then I heard her voice crack. "Please, Dad. I know I've made mistakes, but I'm asking for a chance to make it right. Don't cancel the trip. Don't make things worse." "I'm not making things worse, Nicole. You already have," I said, my voice steely. "I'm not some ATM you can rely on whenever it's convenient. You've crossed a line, and now I'm taking back control. The trip is canceled. The money is gone. You want to make things right? Start by understanding the consequences of your actions." With that, I hung up the phone. I didn't need to hear any more. I had made my decision, and I wasn't going to let them walk all over me any longer. They had taken my money, my time, and my love, and now it was time for them to face the consequences. The days that followed were like a fog descending on my mind. The quiet in the house was almost unbearable. I had always believed that my family was my anchor, the ones who would be by my side, no matter what. But now, everything I had worked for, everything I had given them, seemed like it had been thrown away in an instant. The holidays, what should have been a time for warmth and joy, had turned into a battlefield, and I was the one left standing alone. I spent the next few days making sure everything was in place. I reviewed the legal documents one last time, triple-checking everything to make sure there were no loose ends. The reality of what I had done was beginning to settle in. I had canceled everything they had planned: their trip, their luxury vacation, their expectations. They had thought they could walk all over me without consequence, but they had underestimated just how far I was willing to go. Nicole hadn't called since our conversation. I wasn't sure if she was giving me space, or if she was too embarrassed to face the truth. Zachary had tried calling, but I ignored his calls too. They had made their decision, and now they had to face the consequences. The emotional toll was draining, but I wasn't about to let them manipulate me again. They had made it clear they weren't interested in being part of my life unless it was convenient for them. On the morning of the 30th of December, I was sitting at my desk, reviewing some old files when I heard the knock at the door. My heart sank. I had been expecting this. They were coming back, and they weren't going to let me get away with this so easily. I stood up slowly and walked to the door, my footsteps steady but filled with purpose. I opened it to find Nicole standing there, her eyes red from crying, her face pale. Zachary stood behind her, his expression unreadable, but there was a sense of desperation in the way he avoided my gaze. "Dad," Nicole began, her voice hoarse. "Please, can we talk?" I didn't say anything right away. Instead, I stepped aside, allowing them to enter. They walked into the living room, and I followed them, taking in the scene. The house was still decorated for Christmas, but it felt like a different world now. The gifts under the tree, the stockings hanging from the fireplace, none of it mattered anymore. I felt no warmth, no excitement. Everything had been tainted. Nicole sat down on the couch, her hands trembling as she wiped her eyes. Zachary stood near the window, his arms crossed over his chest, his body language defensive. It was clear they weren't here for reconciliation. They were here because they had no other choice. "You need to understand something, Nicole," I said, my voice cold but steady. "You and Zachary made a choice. You chose to leave me out of your lives on Christmas morning. You chose to take my money and my generosity and walk away like it meant nothing. You didn't just hurt me, Nicole, you betrayed me." Nicole's shoulders shook as she began to sob. "Dad, I'm sorry. I never meant for it to get this far. We didn't plan it like that. We thought you'd be fine. We thought you needed time to yourself, that you'd understand. We never meant to hurt you." I shook my head, my frustration growing. "It wasn't just about the trip, Nicole. It was about everything. The money. The years I've spent supporting you and Zachary, doing everything for you both. And this is how you repay me? By abandoning me? By making me feel like I'm nothing but a wallet to you?" Zachary finally spoke, his voice low and apologetic. "Larry, we were wrong. I don't know what got into us. We thought it would be better this way. We didn't think about how it would affect you. We're sorry." "Sorry?" I repeated, my voice rising. "That's all you have to say? After everything I've done for you? You think a few words will fix this?" "No, Zachary. You don't get to just apologize and expect everything to go back to normal." Nicole looked at me, her eyes pleading. "Please, Dad, we made a mistake. We know that now. We're asking for another chance. We'll make it right. We'll come home, we'll talk, we'll do whatever it takes." I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. The anger was still there, but it was mixed with something else, a deep sadness. I had spent years building a life for them, giving them everything they could ever need, and this was how they treated me. "No," I said firmly. "You don't get to make things right just like that. You made your choice, and now you have to live with it. I've already taken the first step. The vacation is canceled. The money is gone, and I'm not going to keep enabling this behavior." Nicole's face crumpled, her sobs becoming more frantic. "Dad, please, don't do this. We need you. I need you." I stood there watching her, trying to hold my ground. I had been weak for so long, letting them use me, letting them manipulate me into thinking that they needed me. But the truth was, they didn't. They had never needed me the way I had thought. They had only needed what I could provide. Zachary stepped forward, his voice quiet but full of frustration. "You're going too far with this, Larry. You're punishing us over something that doesn't even matter. It's just a trip. We're family." I shook my head. "No, Zachary. It's not just a trip. It's everything. You both took advantage of me, and now you want me to just forgive you? I'm done being your fallback. I'm done being the one you turn to when it's convenient." Nicole wiped her eyes and stood up, walking toward me. "Dad, please don't cut us off. We've made a mistake. We're sorry. I'll do whatever it takes to make it right." I looked at her, my heart breaking at the sight of her desperation. I had spent so many years giving her everything I had, and now, when I needed something in return, just simple respect, I was left with nothing. But something inside me had shifted. This wasn't about fixing everything with a few words. This wasn't about making them feel better. This was about me, about my own dignity. I had spent years being the one who gave and gave without ever asking for anything in return. But now, I was done. "I've already made my decision," I said, my voice steady. "You need to understand that there are consequences for your actions. You can't just take from me and expect nothing to happen." The days that followed were a blur of emotions, a mixture of anger, disbelief, and strangely, a sense of relief. The house was still cold, the silence hanging in the air like a weight. Nicole, Zachary, and their parents had come and gone, leaving me to pick up the pieces of a shattered Christmas. It wasn't just the trip that had been canceled, it was the life I had built for them. A life that had been systematically taken advantage of and discarded. I had spent too many years putting them first. Too many years of supporting them financially, emotionally, and mentally. It had always been about them, their needs, their wants. But for the first time, I realized something. I had lost myself in the process. I had been so consumed by providing for them, by being the father they could lean on, that I had forgotten to take care of myself. I had been a source of support, of comfort, of money never asking for anything in return. And this was how they repaid me, by planning to exclude me from the family they said they loved. It was time to make them see the consequences of their actions. I wasn't going to be the fool who kept giving and giving without getting anything in return. I wasn't going to let them manipulate me into thinking I was doing this out of love, when, in reality, it was out of fear. Fear of losing them, fear of being alone. But now, I was learning that sometimes, the only way to protect yourself was to let go. I had a meeting scheduled with my lawyer, Michael, that afternoon. We had spoken earlier about the legal steps I could take to secure my assets and ensure that Nicole and Zachary faced the consequences for what they had done. I had already taken steps to cancel the vacation, but that was just the beginning. I was going to make sure they couldn't manipulate me again. The thought of it was liberating. I walked into the office building, the cold wind biting at my face. I had never felt more resolute. The anger still burned inside me, but it had become more of a fuel than a weakness. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was determined, and I was ready to take back what was mine. Michael was waiting for me when I arrived. He greeted me with a firm handshake, his expression serious but understanding. Michael had been my lawyer for over 20 years, and I trusted him like family. If anyone could help me navigate this, it was him. "Larry," he said, "you've had some time to think this through, I take it." I nodded. "I've thought about it long enough. I'm done being the nice guy. I'm done letting them take advantage of me." Michael gave me a small nod of approval. "That's good. We've got the documents ready to proceed with the cancellation of their credit cards, the loan recall, and everything else you've requested. But Larry, I need to ask you something." I looked at him, unsure of what he was going to say. "What is it? Are you sure you want to go this route? Once you start these proceedings, there's no turning back. Your relationship with your daughter, your son-in-law, it may never be the same. And I don't think they'll take kindly to what you're doing." I had already considered this. The repercussions, the fallout. But I had come to realize that my peace of mind was worth more than their approval. "I've already made my decision, Michael. I've spent my whole life trying to make them happy, trying to be the father they needed. But they don't appreciate it. They don't value it. They just take and take. I'm not going to let that continue." Michael sat back in his chair and regarded me carefully. "All right, I understand. We'll move forward with everything. But you need to be prepared for what's coming." "I am," I said. "I've been prepared for a long time. It's just taken me this long to realize it." The next few days were filled with legal paperwork, phone calls, and email exchanges. Michael and I worked tirelessly to ensure that every step of the process was documented, every move made with precision. I had no intention of letting them off the hook. They had planned to take advantage of me, but now I was the one in control. As I sat in my office late one night, reviewing the final draft of the loan recall notice, I felt a strange sense of satisfaction. I wasn't just protecting my assets. I was protecting myself. I was no longer going to let them dictate the terms of our relationship. I was no longer going to allow them to manipulate my generosity for their own benefit. It was time for them to understand that there were consequences for betrayal. The day the legal notices were sent out, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. I knew they would fight it. I knew they would try to manipulate the situation to their advantage, but they didn't realize the strength of my resolve. I wasn't going to back down. It wasn't long before the phone calls started. Nicole was the first to reach out, her voice frantic, her words jumbled with emotion. Dad, please, I don't know what's happening. We're getting these legal notices and I don't understand. What did we do wrong? You know exactly what you did, Nicole, I replied, my voice steady. You planned to leave me behind. You used me for my money and thought there would be no consequences. Well, there are. I'm sorry, Dad, she said, her voice breaking. We didn't mean to hurt you. Please, let's talk about this. We can fix it. I didn't say anything at first. I let the silence stretch between us. It's too late for apologies, I finally said. You made your choice, and now you're going to live with it. Nicole was silent for a moment before she spoke again, her voice barely above a whisper. Please, Dad, don't do this. We're family. We need you. You need me? I repeated, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. You needed me when it was convenient for you. But when it came time for family, you chose to exclude me. You don't get to decide how this ends. I do.